Okay, we're going to call the Tuesday, May 7th meeting of the Planning Commission to order, and we do have a quorum. There will be maybe one more board member arriving, but we can start the meeting. And the first item of business is approval or consideration of the minutes from April 16th.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you very much.
I move that we approve the minutes from Tuesday, April 16th, 2019.
Mrs. Woolman has made a motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Miller offered the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. So the minutes are approved as written. So we welcome all of you to our meeting. And our first item is case number LE 18-006, the Sky Ranch Concrete Batch Plant, location and extent, and Molly will present for the county.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Molly Orkild-Larson, Senior Planner with the Public Works Department. The County Attorney has reviewed the public notice and has determined the applicant has met all the notice requirements, thereby establishing jurisdiction. What's before you this evening is the Sky Ranch Concrete Batch Plant location and extent. The applicant is Sky Ranch Community Authority Board. The applicant is proposing to locate a batch plant within a 5.3-acre easement, which it will be located southwest of the corner of North Haysmont Road and East 6th Avenue on a 311-acre parcel owned by PCY Holdings, LLC. The batch plant will be temporary and is to be operated for 2 years with an option of 2 additional 1-year extensions. The plan is to consist of a control house, batch plant, material storage, admix storage containers, auxiliary equipment, crusher, conveyors, parking and loading areas. The batch plant will provide concrete for the construction of public improvements necessary to serve the Sky Ranch development. No sales to private customers will be allowed. The proposed hours of operation are 4 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Staff has set a condition of approval for hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. However, the applicant has provided a alteration to condition number 8, which was handed out last week to you, and I provided you another copy. The applicant will be reviewing this condition with you. Staff is recommending approval based on the findings in the staff report. This concludes my presentation. If you have any questions at this time, I'm more than happy to answer them for you.
I noticed that they're proposing to do it for 1 year and then perhaps extend it for 2 years.
No, it's 2 years to begin with, and then they have an option. They can ask for 1-year extensions twice.
Okay.
Yes.
I did not note any provision for how they would restore the land if the concrete batch plant, they didn't need it anymore, whether they would return it.
I don't think that was mentioned. That's a good point, and we can make that it'll probably be reseeded.
Residue.
Yeah, and it'll probably be reseeded, but we can ask the applicant, and if we have to set a condition, we can.
Right.
Okay?
Any other questions?
All right, I'll hand it over to Mark's team, and they have a presentation for you.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Brent Brilliard. I'm an engineer with PureCycle. Tonight I'm representing the Sky Ranch CAB, and we'll be presenting their application for an L&E for the Sky Ranch Concrete Batch Plant. The purpose of this project is to construct and operate a temporary concrete batch plant to supply concrete or public improvements within the Sky Ranch development. Some of those public improvements being curb and gutter, sidewalks along streets and open space, trails, park infrastructure, plant foundations, and some stormwater infrastructure. Talking to some of the contractors on site recently, some of them are having trouble supplying concrete for smaller jobs. Either they can't get it at the time frame they want, or they have to order it several days in advance. So this additional source may help alleviate some of those concerns with concrete sources. Operation time frame, like Molly said, we're asking for a 2-year operation time frame with the potential to extend that for 2 additional 1-year time extensions. The operating hours that I sent you that letter, we sent you that letter, we're proposing 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Although 6 a.m. may sound early, contractors typically request concrete deliveries is very early in the morning, particularly in the summer, around 7 a.m. or so, because contractors have to place and finish concrete in forms early before temperatures start to rise and prematurely harden that concrete. So that's kind of the advantage of placing concrete early in the morning. The batch plant will be built on 5.3 acres owned by PCY Holdings, and then the Sky Ranch Cab will get an easement from PCY Holdings to access, construct, and operate the plant. The batch plant proposed location is on the northeast corner of Sky Ranch Filing 2, indicated by that blue rectangle. It's accessed by exiting off I-70 at Air Park Road exit, and then traveling along gravel roads southeast to the batch plant. When concrete is being delivered by truck, first to Sky Ranch Filing 1, they can utilize some of those existing aggregate roadways, and then also we can deliver concrete to some of the preliminary phases of Sky Ranch Filing 2, depending on build-out time frame. One of the advantages of having the batch plant on site is instead of when concrete trucks are delivering concrete to Sky Ranch public improvement projects, maximum distance trucks will have to travel is a mile and a quarter or so, compared to 6 to 8 miles if they deliver concrete from a plant in Aurora. So we're alleviating some wear and tear on roads and minimizing some truck traffic as well. One of the reasons we located the batch plant on this northeast corner is it's farthest away from existing residences. The closest existing residence is a mile to the south, right there. And the second closest residences are located about 1.5 miles to the northwest up along the exit here. Another reason we located the batch plant where we did is this is the industrial area of our property. The batch plant would be situated or sandwiched in between 4 existing oil and gas pad sites right here, and just in the north of an existing water storage pond. So we're trying to keep industrial uses in this industrial corridor right here. Here's a schematic of a typical concrete batch plant that will be most likely very similar to the one the Sky Ranch Cab will use. It's composed of 2 primary units, this first one right here, and the second one. The first one having a feed hopper at the top, a couple scales right here and here. This is a cement storage area, and then there's a conveyor belt underneath. The second unit is this larger drum mixer. And as you can see, it's kind of like a flatbed type system where they have axles and wheels, so they'll be transported to the site, disconnected with a semi. We'll erect them and pin them together, and then at the closeout of the project, they can be disconnected and then rolled off the site using semis as well. So to batch concrete, the first thing that happens is sand and aggregate is taken from those aggregate storage bins and placed into the feed hopper at the top. A specific amount of those materials is then dropped down and weighed, proportionate to the specific mix for the concrete being batched. The sand and aggregate then drops down onto the conveyor belt and is taken and dropped down into the mixer here. At the same time, cement that's stored here is then weighed in this scale, and a proportionate amount of cement and water is then added to the larger drum mixer. It's mixed until it's uniform, and then it's dispensed into concrete trucks, which then would take it to the public improvement projects within Sky Ranch. This is another similar schematic, a very similar design, the only difference being that instead of having the cement stored over the conveyor belt, it's stored adjacent to the drum mixer in a silo. That generally concludes my presentation. I want to thank Arapahoe County staff for the help with the application, Molly and Sue, and I'll take any questions that you guys might have.
Getting back to the question regarding restoration of the footprint.
Yep. If we don't have any other industrial areas or uses in that area, we'll just go ahead and reseed it to native. It might be an open area. in the future.
Was that required by the easement with PCY Holdings?
It was in our guest plan. It was required that, if anything, at the end of the project, we'd remove the BMPs that were installed and reseeded, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I wanted to ask how much of your concrete has already been poured?
Not very much. We have some open space trails poured and a little bit of curb and gutter on the initial turnout for Monaghan Road to access the site, but we're starting to lay concrete and some more asphalt now, but not very much has been placed.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Is there a lot of water usage in? I mean, where are you going to?
There's some. We can. There's a couple different ways we can give water to the batch plant. Either there's a potable hydrant located on site already, or if we can use non-potable water, we could probably pull it from the that storage reservoir there. So there's a couple different options, but it's not a huge demand compared to some of our other uses or customers.
And then will you be starting the plant at 6 a.m. or you start deliveries at 6 a.m.?
6 a.m. with the hope of starting deliveries and or getting concrete to the job sites around 7.
So the plant will start before 6 a.m.?
No, at 6 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Is there a concrete washout area?
Yep, there is.
Yeah.
It'll be located, I don't have the plan sheet, but if you have sheet 2 in front of you, there's one at the exit and one at the entrance. Actually, I don't show that because that's part of the guest plans that I had to coordinate with SEMSLA.
And then at peak, how many truckloads are you running in a day?
The plant can operate up to 40 cubic yards an hour. That's far higher than what we would expect. I would say at maximum, just a ballpark, 10, 15 truckloads a day.
And they're all going to be running on that dirt road that just runs at a diagonal?
Yep, yeah.
And is there going to be an adjoining road that goes over to Filing One, or are you going to go all the way up to the old South Center?
Sure. There's actually a fire access road that runs all the way east-west to the southeast corner of Filing One that we could also use. So either they could diagonally go northeast or use the 6th Avenue roadway.
Where would these trucks come from? So, I mean, will they be stored on site and serviced on site, or will they be coming every morning?
No, I would imagine we'd have a couple that are sitting on site, and there's a parking area for those.
So without the batch plant, you won't be able to get the concrete that you need to even put your infrastructure in.
We would be able to obtain it. It's just not as convenient, and it's not right there. They would have to order through different existing ready-mix plants in Aurora.
And how many truck trips would that require to get the amount that you contemplate using on an average?
Yeah, there'd probably be 1 or 2 truckloads of aggregate and cement delivered a day just for raw materials, and then after that, everything's contained within the development. So those truck trips are just that mile, east-west to Filing One.
Great, thank you.
Are you going to have any traffic on Hayes Mountain Road going up to the highway, or should everything be
Everything will be mostly on 6th and that diagonal road.
So when you if you get your batch plan and don't need it anymore, would you remove everything that was there?
Yeah, everything will be disassembled and removed. The BMPs will be removed, and then, like I said, we'll reseed it or
something that could be added to, or is this what you're proposing sufficient for what you need?
It's more than sufficient, yeah.
Okay.
So there's equipment there now. Whose equipment is that? Do you know?
Most of the stuff that's there now pertains to oil and gas associated with that water storage pond and some pipeline construction equipment.
Brett, did you want to go over condition 8? What you were proposing?
Yeah, and so the staff had proposed 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. as condition 8. We just proposed moving that earlier by 1 hour, so that's 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. operation time frame.
Have you done outreach to any of the neighbors? I mean, realizing that you're talking, mile and a half away.
Right. And we've sent notices to all of them. I actually don't know if I had to send notices to the neighbor all the way up by the exit because it's so
Right.
far away, but I did anyways.
And you heard nothing that...
I heard nothing, no.
Will this create a lot of noise or not?
I don't think particularly more than the industrial uses that are there now. I mean, we have a lot of oil and gas traffic, and you know, we don't get a lot of complaints from them right now. And we're keeping that industrial area, or that's why we're keeping the batch plant in that area. So it's not any closer or farther away than what they're already used to.
You gave them a chance to respond. Okay. Any other questions?
How much work are you guys doing on Saturday?
Our contractor is working some Saturdays, and it's kind of weather dependent, I think. So if there's a lot of rainy days like this week, then they probably work on Saturday.
Because 6 a.m. is awfully early on Saturday for some folks.
That is true, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Have you, you know, obviously you can't measure the noise coming from there because it's not built yet, but do you have experience with the noise in other types of operations like this, and how far away you can really, I mean, you know, if there's oil and gas development, the pumpers are going, okay?
Yeah.
So there's that noise, and those are continuous. That's continuous noise.
Yep.
So I didn't know whether you had experience with other kinds of concrete operations like this, and how far away it is that you can hear.
Yeah. Reviewing the staff report Molly sent out, I think is at condition 5 that is noise level. So there's noise level restrictions that we have to abide by. And some of the other reference jurisdictions that Molly showed, I forgot if it was Centennial or there was another noise ordinance, and they listed a distance of 1,000 feet.
Right.
So we're more than 5 times that distance. So if Centennial's okay with 1,000, I would imagine that 5 times the distance, we're definitely going to be much less of a nuisance than potentially other batch plants. And I know that mile distance is far longer than some of the existing ready mix plants that are permanent.
What about light pollution coming off of it?
Yeah, we're pretty gonna have minimal lighting, just mostly at like access stations, over doorways for the control station. But besides that, we don't have anything planned for lighting.
Okay.
And the city of Aurora had no comments?
We didn't have to go to the city of Aurora.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you are surrounded.
We are, yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Molly, do you have any other comments right now?
No, I don't.
Okay, then we will open the public hearing. If anybody is here and would like to speak to the proposed concrete batch plant. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and bring it back for consideration. Or further questions if there are.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion. In the case of LE 18-006, Sky Ranch Concrete Batch Plant Location and Extent, I have reviewed the staff report, including all exhibits and attachments, and have listened to the applicant's presentation and any public comment is presented at the hearing, and hereby move to approve this application based on the findings in the staff report, subject to the following conditions. That's going to be 1 through 8. However, number 8, there's a modification to the hours of operation to amend those hours to be between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday.
Okay. Do we have a second for the motion?
Can I just ask one more? I know we're kind of sorry. So,
Sure.
is there any way to restrict it that if there's too many complaints at that 6 a.m. start that we can get them bumped back instead of leaving it open at 6 a.m.? Is there a motion that we can make in there?
That's sort of the enforcement.
Right.
Sort of once the horse is out of the barn there, it becomes difficult to enforce. But you could put that in there and staff would basically follow up on in complaints, and we would, I'm not sure how we, probably needs to be some sort of due process in there to follow up on the complaints and make sure they're legitimate, and then come back before the planning commission and, authorize the change. If that makes some sense.
Yeah.
Ms. Miller, would you like to add some language to the motion?
I don't know what language I'm adding, so I don't know how I would even add that to begin with. But,
maybe one way to address it is you brought up Saturday.
Yeah.
Have a different hour schedule for Saturday.
That makes sense. Maybe that's much more what I'm looking for is that Saturday time, is a later start time on Saturday. So then I would say, can we amend the language so that it reads that the start time on Saturday is by 7 a.m. and then the weekday can stay at the 6 a.m. start?
And you're proposing the modification be from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.?
I would leave it at the 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday. So it's not going into the evening hours for when families are there, and it's not too early in the morning either.
Just for Saturdays.
Just for Saturday, yeah.
Would you be amenable to adding that?
Yes. So I move that we just modify number 8, still subject to the conditions 1 through 7, modify condition 8 to read that the hours of operation Monday through Friday are 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Saturdays from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Very good. The motion has been changed a little bit. Do we have a second for the motion?
I will second.
Mr. Miller has seconded the motion by Mrs. Woolman.
The rest of the condition, there is, it says if a public facility requires a large pour that it will exceed the operating hours, it has operating hours from 7 to 7 p.m. Do you want to change that or leave it the same?
I think we need to leave it the same. Personally, I think we do need to leave that the same.
Leave that the way it is.
Because you're talking about huge curb lengths or drainage facilities that may require a really large pour. And weather conditions permitting, I think we need to leave that as is.
Okay, so 7 to 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion that's been seconded by Mr. Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Our next item is case number FDP 18-005, Copperleaf number 21 FDP, and Mr. Skinner represents the county.
I'll get started. Oh, there we go. So Bill Skinner for the Arapahoe County Planning Division. The applicant has provided mailing notice to adjacent properties. We've posted the site per staff instructions, establishing jurisdiction for you tonight. If the Planning Commission hearing goes well, this case will move on to the board as a consent agenda item. If it goes less well, we'll move it to the board as a public hearing item, say if it got a recommendation for denial tonight, just to establish procedure for you going forward. This application is FDP 18005, Copperleaf Parcel L, filing number 21, Final Development Plan. It's in the Copperleaf PDP, which we're all fairly familiar with, but the location is approximately 700 feet southwest of the intersection of East Quincy Avenue and South Piccadilly Street. This final development plan proposes 266 multifamily housing units in 3-story buildings on a 12.17 acre parcel. This results in an average density of 21.9 DU per acre. So for ease of memory, just about 22 DU per acre. The proposed density is in a location in Copperleaf that has a density restriction having been put in place with the adoption of the original Copperleaf in 2004 of up to 30 DU per acre. So this is significantly lower than the maximum that parcel was potentially able to take. Theoretically, that allows up to 365 units on that property. Staff finds that this complies with the proposal, complies with the underlying Copperleaf PDP. It complies with direction in the comp plan. This will provide a little bit of diversity of housing in the area, which is largely single-family attached, not as largely single-family paired homes, duplexes in other words. And then this would allow for some 3-story walk-ups, which is something this area does not currently have. You have to go out over a quarter mile in any direction to find anything like that, over half a mile in any direction to find anything like that. The applicant has a presentation. We're familiar with this firm. They do a pretty good job of providing information for the Planning Commission. So I'd like to move to that before we go to me with questions, unless something specific is in your mind. Staff recommendation for this is for approval. We're here to gather a Planning Commission recommendation tonight as well. Any questions for me at this time?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, with that, we'll have Ryan come up from Norris Design. Ryan will give you his name and address and proceed.
These are always made for shorter people, so make sure you can hear me. Good evening, my name is Ryan McBreen with Norris Design, 1101 Banning Street, Denver, Colorado, 80204. So we're excited to be here tonight, so thank you for your time. Appreciate everything staff has done to get us to this point. Been working with Bill on Copperleaf projects for a long time and kind of finally running out of the property up there. But we're excited to bring this one. This is new and unique, something we really haven't done out here yet, so we're excited to present it to you. We think to provide another great housing opportunity out here in the community. I think you all are familiar with the site. Just pull up the vicinity map real quick just so everybody's familiar with it. The site highlighted in red is where we are proposing to build the project. Property to the north is slated to be commercial development. As Bill mentioned, we're here to get your approval for the current FDP we have submitted to develop 266 multifamily residential units. As Bill mentioned as well, we believe our application conforms with all aspects of the approved Copperleaf PDP, including the uses proposed, the density proposed well underneath what you can do, the height, setbacks, as well as parking provided. We provided a concept. Obviously, this is the same as what's in the FDP plan, but we added some color so we can add a little context to what you all are seeing. Proposed, there we go, are 10 multifamily buildings, 3 stories high, walkout with center, or served by stairs kind of in the center location. There is tuck-under parking on one side of each building here, on each side of these, if you see these guys here. And there are also freestanding garages that residents can rent and use as well. Anchoring the project is in the center is a pool house, club, and amenity center. There also is a dog park. Access will come off South Piccadilly, which exists, as well as a private drive to be developed as part of this project that will also serve the future commercial project to the north. So access, good flow. Parking is dispersed equally throughout the site. No excessive walking to get from a parking spot to a building. Connections with sidewalks are all provided out to Piccadilly, so residents can not only use their internal amenities, but also the rest of the amenities provided in the Copperleaf community. No architecture is of particular interest. We worked hard to create architecture that is articulated well across all facades of the building through the use of building stepbacks, horizontal material breaks and changes, roof massing, and color transitions, as you can see from the graphics here. The buildings break down to achieve a more manageable scale, and low roofs and durable materials at the lower levels achieve a massing that relates to the human scale. The articulation of the building in and out at the ground plane as substantial stepbacks create an interesting lower level. So you can see it's not your standard just tilt-up building. There's a lot of different colors, materials, and plane breaks in the project there. And finally, here we have the clubhouse. You can see character, architecture matches the rest of the community. And this is a zoom in of kind of the main amenity here for the residents. This is a private amenity, not that'll serve the multifamily residents, not the greater Copperleaf community. Planning a pool, outdoor gathering space with outdoor kitchen, seating, everything. And the clubhouse will have areas such as leasing, workout facility, and that sort of thing. So it's going to serve as the main central gathering place. Like it's mentioned, it's located centrally, so it's easy access for everybody. So we're excited. Grand Peaks has a great track record of developing great projects throughout the metro area. Several under construction and several already developed. So they're excited to develop out here in Copperleaf. I'm not going to go through all of the requirements for conformance. Bill outlined those pretty clearly within your staff report, but, as mentioned in there, we believe we meet them all. I think staff agrees with us, and staff also has recommended approval for this project. So I won't belabor the point. We think this is a great project. We're excited to present it to you tonight, and I'm here as well as the developer and our project team to answer any questions you might have about what we're presenting tonight. So, thank you.
How many parking spaces per building are available?
Well, per building, we have over 550. We have 550 total parking spaces. So the standard is, I don't know the exact standard, but we're meeting the parking requirements of the code there. So it's not broken down per building.
Right, it's as a whole.
Yeah, so we have to have 500, or we have to, whatever the code says, we're providing 550 throughout. So we really worked hard to disperse that equally so everybody has equal access to everything. So there's not issues with people, you don't have to park here and then to access, walk all the way down here because there's plenty of parking along these main roads on the sides. And like I mentioned too, there's a tuck under garage. Not enough for every unit, but there are tuck under garages too.
So the available parking spaces do or do not include the garage parking?
They do include the garage parking. Another thing to note as well is it's not included because Arapahoe County doesn't count them as parking spaces. Each of the garages in these actually has space behind it, like almost a driveway length. So if someone is using that space, they can actually park there too. So if you include that parking, we're well over what's required, but Arapahoe County their code does not allow us to count that towards the parking requirement, so our parking meets the code without that. So we have quite a bit of parking. Should meet the needs.
And how many 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom units are being proposed?
On the cover sheet of your...
Yeah, it was probably too small for me to...
Sure, no problem. 1 bedroom looks like it's 100, and then 2 and 3 bedroom is 166. We don't have it broken down between 2 and 3, but they might. Those are kind of easy enough. They sometimes kind of interchange them as they go, right? Because you kind of look at demand as you start building the project. So.
Do you have more questions?
No.
Mr. Miller, do you have a question?
No.
Okay. Could you, I know what's in here, but could you tell me about the dog park and how big that is?
It's not extremely big. I don't know the exact square footage, but if you look, there's parking right there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. So it's a little deeper than about 5 parking spaces. So it's not a giant collector area. It's just a spot for people. Hey, we want to walk our dog, let her off leash, let her get some space. But it's nothing ginormous.
I guess I feel when I'm looking at your rendering there that
Sure.
the amount of the sidewalks, it's fairly disjointed. So if you had a dog and you wanted to get to the dog park, you're going to be walking in front of all the garages. There's not a lot of sidewalk.
Sure.
Is that intentional?
Not necessarily intentional. It's kind of a product of having these tuck under garages. Makes it difficult to do it any different way. And so, I can understand your concern. Most people when they go walk their pet, they're just going to walk on the sidewalks and go like that. So if they go to the dog park, it's more of a deliberate act. So we try to locate it and put it where a spot where a lot of people can use it easily, but we also know it's not for everybody or not as easily accessible. Because we don't want to put it by the pool and that sort of thing, because they're just kind of, pools are relaxing, amenities are, while a dog park is something a little more active, could be noisy. So kind of have to separate the 2 spaces.
And how close were the homes, which I understand are not yet built on the southern side, how close will they be to your boundary?
Let me confirm our setback there. So our south property line, right here, our closest building is 26 feet from the property line, and I don't have the exact numbers, but you can see there's open space. There's a gap on their property as well. So their yards don't back up to our property line over there. So there's a space. I don't know what that space specifically is. Or what
And none of the KB homes have been built yet.
Not
The east.
Not that I'm aware, or at least no. I think they're under construction. Right now.
I can interject that. The neighborhood you're talking about is under construction. The single-family homes to the south have not even started construction yet, and the paired homes to the west have not started construction yet.
They're just finishing the grading over there.
All right. It was a staff consideration when we looked at having 3-story buildings here that was going to come on site first, and then people purchasing the homes to the south would be fully aware that was going to be.
That's what I was going to ask a question about as well, because that affects their view. So I just wanted to be sure that they were going to see the height of the structures being built prior to them purchasing those units or those homes.
Yeah, like Bill said, none of these are under construction. They're planning, assuming we get approval from you and the Board of County Commissioners, they're ready to kind of commence construction on this project too. So the idea is that this would be happening at the same time, so people would know that that's there. Obviously it's a different situation if the homes are there already.
Right, and I have no idea what the percentage of homes is that are going to be affected by that height,
Sure.
the building height blocking the view.
The good news is most views are, westerly as opposed to the north. So.
Right, it just depends how those houses are sited
Sure,
on the lot.
oriented, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The way the grades break here, it slopes downwards from Quincy to the south. Those homes south of this property likely wouldn't have had any view to the north anyway. They would have been looking at a slope or a hill.
Right, okay, good. That's good to know. I wasn't aware of the contours.
So, Mr. Skinner, then the space between the homes that are there and the red line, that's just open space? It's going to stay that way?
It is.
And all the way down towards the west as well?
Yeah, right there.
Well, yeah, down that lower area, through there.
Yes, those areas will largely be taken up, be used to take up the grade difference between the two different properties.
So they're not being used as detention or retention ponds then? Okay.
No detention or retention in those areas.
Okay.
The areas that aren't broken into single-family detached lots south of the project, that'll be maintained by Copper Lease Master HOA. The areas on the west strip between this proposal and those paired home smaller lots, I believe those are also going to be under control of Copper Lease Master HOA. Not positive on that one on the west, but I believe so. Be something I'd have to verify if you wanted a positive answer from me.
And the interior roads are all private, so who is responsible? These are going to be for rent apartments?
Correct, yes.
So who will maintain the roads?
The owner of the project.
Okay. Forever.
Yes, for in perpetuity. You guys will never be on the hook for it.
I do have one question. Under your elevation keynote, number 124 was listed as corrugated metal siding, and I never could find it. I wondered where you're going to use corrugated metal siding.
That is a good question. Oh, it's on the clubhouse. Sorry, it's our architect. It's on the clubhouse elevation. I think I only have one side of the clubhouse, though, so it might not show up there. Maybe. No, it doesn't show up on this elevation. There's a portion of the clubhouse that has some of it. If you look on, let me see if I can find it.
I think that might be it on the left end of your elevation.
Vertical.
Yeah. It's an accent piece.
It seems like an unusual product.
Yeah, so it's
for
actually
apartment.
right there for the So,
So it's black.
sorry, what?
It's dark colored.
Oh, yes, it's that piece right there. So, this day and age, I know we, corrugated metal, and I'm not an architect. I don't pretend to be. But we use all sorts of different materials now, just because I mean, you've seen a lot of the multifamily projects that come that honestly, the architecture is less than appealing. Yeah, so people want to see texture and variation and something attractive. So, it's not going to be a corrugated tin building, kind of like a farm building. Yes, that's not it. It's thoughtful design. It's intentionally used. It's not selected because we're going to try to see cost savings. I'm having a heck of a time.
It's noisy when it hails.
Hopefully not. It doesn't hit that. Looks like it's underneath kind of this roof edge. So hopefully it's not. So.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Do you know what the average rents are proposed to be for the 1 and 2 bedrooms?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Paul Troy. I work with Grand Peaks, the developer. 4582 South Ulster Street, Denver, Colorado, 80237. The average rents for the units will likely be 1,400-ish range for a 1-bedroom. Actually, that's probably high. I apologize, I don't have the direct numbers. But somewhere in the low 1,000s for 1-bedroom, and then scaling up for 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom. And then there's no studios on the project.
Okay, square footage of your 1-bedroom, do you know that offhand?
Roughly 700.
Thank you.
And what would that amount of money include? Pool usage and your covered parking in your garage?
It will include access to all of the amenity spaces, including the pool, and there's also interior amenities within the clubhouse. Truck under parking will be an additional fee. That's not yet established, but the surface parking is all complimentary and free of charge.
Thank you. Anything else, Mrs. Woman?
That's it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll open the public hearing for anybody that wishes to come forward and speak to the Copperleaf Parcel L. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and bring it back to the Planning Commission unless somebody else wants to make any final comments. It's up to us. Mr. Miller? Go.
Yeah, you're on.
In the case of FDP 18-005 Copperleaf Parcel L, filing number 21, filing development plan, I have reviewed the staff report, including all exhibits and attachments. I have listened to the applicant's presentation and any public comments as presented at the hearing, and hereby move to recommend approval for the application based on the findings in the staff report, subject to the following conditions 1 and 2.
Okay, we have a motion made by Mr. Miller. Are there any additions or amendments? Or can we have a second for the motion as presented?
I'll second.
Very good. Mr. Stahl has seconded the motion. Any other comments? We'll ask the Planning Commission to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. That was everything on the agenda. I guess that was just everything then. Any announcements?
Yeah, any announcements like
No?
party after or no?
Okay then. Meeting adjourned.